Chilanga, Conversing.
Welcome back to another episode of Chilanga Converses with your host, Mr. Pars.
This is Mulundu, also known as the Kingpin.
And we're here with Chilanga resident Saidi. Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so we're talking about recent events, and there have been quite a number. So I guess the most recent one I can think of where we'd like to get your opinion or view of it is the shootings. For those of you who remember the shootings, HH had a hearing and he was summoned by the police, and what transpired was Cadders went with him, and the police, in an attempt to disperse the crowd, used live ammunition in which 2 fatalities occurred. So, was there any better way to go about that whole situation?
There were so many better ways that they could have gone about that. But I'm sure for them to use live ammunition, they were trying to send a message across to the opposition to intimidate them, I think, and sort of to bring about a lot of confusion in their camp and strike fear into their hearts as well. Because, honesty, when they go for to try and subdue riots by UNZA, CBU, they rarely use live ammunition. It's always rubber bullets, tear gas, and so on and so forth. But for them to use live ammunition, yeah, I think they knew what they were doing and they knew what they're trying to do. Whether it was an assassination attempt or what have you, no one knows really.
And if you look at the history of, I guess, crowd dispersing, riot control in Zambia, we've had, I'm guessing, five other incidents where people died, and that was using non-fatal means. I mean, not using live ammunition. So, the probability of something going wrong was pretty high, adding live ammunition.
Definitely. It's a wonder what they were thinking at all, especially firing into the crowd. You know, if I was the commanding officer present at the scene, I would tell them to fire into the air, you know, or fire at the ground. But then the thing is, for you to have 2 people who died from headshots and no one else was shot in the arm or in the leg or in the body, you know, it all doesn't really sit well. It seems like maybe there could have been, you know, ulterior motives. It just doesn't make sense if you think about it.
If anything, doesn't it sound like you're aiming at something? You know, so
it does, yes.
For it to be 2 shots, 2 casualties, 2 headshots, you're aiming at something. Mm-hmm. You're not just dispersing the crowd.
And think about it. If you're firing a gun at a moving crowd, what is the probability that you have 2 headshots? If the crowd is moving and they are running, you know?
That's pretty specific.
So
then again,
that could lead you to think that maybe a marksman was behind everything, you know. But hey, that's just speculation.
With everything that's been going on, this situation was sort of encouraged by, I guess, the current political situation, in the sense that everyone's trying to please the people who are in power, and the government may not have actually given the orders for them to use live ammunition, but it's that type of thing where people are trying to impress their boss. They're trying to show that, okay, they're doing something, they're loyal to the current government and all, which has put people in situations in which they've had to rethink, or in fact, let me not say rethink, but they've had to make decisions in the interest of furthering their own careers and showing that they're more loyal than the other guy. Because, all honesty, when you're going there because what they were going there to do was crowd control.
Yes.
So you're basically supposed, first of all, you're supposed to establish, or at least make known to the people who you're trying to control, that look, we are given orders to shoot people on site. Disperse. You give them 2-3 warnings, and then when the situation escalates, that's when you take action. But the way it seemed like it was one of those things where it was unprovoked. As one of the stories that I heard was one of the gentlemen who got shot was literally walking out of his office to go across the road to go and buy something. So from that itself, you can tell that there was there must have been, at least it must have been a civil situation. There was no panic, there was no chaos or anything that should have warranted such an action to be taken.
At the same time, clearly the people in the crowd had no weapons. Because if they did, wouldn't those same individuals be in custody at the moment? You'd have something to charge them with, wouldn't you?
You would.
And I guess that should now raise questions in: did the police act? Did they act justly, in the sense that nothing has, or at least I haven't heard anything further happening to either the people who actually pulled the trigger? How is it that yes, 2 bullets were fired and no one has been brought forward to answer for it? No one has.
I'm sure. I mean, the only action they have offered us so far is to fire. Who did they fire?
The Deputy Inspector General.
The Deputy Inspector General. But does this really seem like the type of incident where someone just gets fired? You know, shouldn't this be something that should be tried, investigated, and then tried accordingly?
Yeah, just even from a human rights perspective, it's that they did not follow, at least I should think it's the Geneva Conventions. That's where they came up with human rights. Yeah, they didn't follow any of the protocols that were discussed there, and I feel that in the next coming years we might hear a lot more debate about this same situation. It might even become a case study of how not to, or how the police are abusing their power and who is actually running things in this country. Because you can't have a lawless country in which 2 people die, no one gets a day in court to at least
defend their
actions, and also to try and get to the bottom of the situation. Because these are lives of people, taxpayers even, who have been unjustly taken away. So it's
one of them working for state prosecution, right?
Here's a radical perspective. How about if you looked at everything in terms of demonstration of power?
Yes.
You know?
Go on.
Yes. So an unfortunate thing has happened. Yes. But then would you say that the government would want to seem to be in a position where it is wrong and would have to try some of the people within it, you know? So perhaps nothing could happen from this.
So the aim is to demonstrate that they have enough power to not be questioned. I know that I guess we can't really speak to their intentions, but if it was that way, then that would be pretty messed up, wouldn't it?
It would. It is actually messed up when you think about it. It is very messed up in the sense that the state can do whatever it pleases without any repercussions. The systems that are in place are rigged against everyone else apart from those who are in power. It's a scary thought to think about, that even us, as we are here discussing this, we could be brought up on trumped up charges saying, oh, we're defaming the leaders that be, and we're questioning, bringing unrest. But yeah,
we're really just trying to have a discussion where we explore what happened and encourage everybody to pretty much be the same, look at things objectively and judge whether or not such things should have occurred, and so everybody's more mindful.
Yes. Now, the other thing is that you have to keep in mind is that the way the situation is, it's quite puzzling and it's disappointing as well, in the sense that just a couple months ago, a minister was supposed to go to court, and just there by the court, he had his supporters there flocking, literally being bussed from wherever they were coming from, and no one paid them no mind, because this minister is
part of the ruling party.
Is part of the ruling party, but there's a different standard when you're in the opposition. When you're in the opposition, you can't have those supporters who come to give you solidarity, and if you are questioning them, they attack you, they try to silence you, they try to infringe on your rights.
It also leads us to question, how much democracy do we really have, and is it being exercised in a correct manner? Yeah. Well, the reaction of the people from this incident has encouraged people to do a movement on social media where they're questioning. Well, not questioning. Well, they put up those filters, like, when France had that terrorist incident. But in our case, it's Stop Police Brutality. And that made me think, like, can this even be counted as brutality?
It surpasses brutality. Because, if anything, it's at best manslaughter.
Yeah, like murder that occurred because it was unintentional, but it still occurred.
Because brutality is like Rodney King.
Yeah. Rodney King was an American who was beaten to an inch of his life over what? Was it a traffic stop or I'm not sure. Yeah, so
But then if you think about it, what's racking up against the police, First of all, there was the UNZA student who died and nothing happened. Vespers, tear gas was thrown into her room. That was very unfortunate, and that matter has been pursued, and to date we haven't seen it come to a conclusion. Has anybody been named responsible? Has the family gotten any closure? They haven't. And then we move on to another situation where there's more death and still questions are being asked. So it's disheartening, really it is. And just hopefully things could turn around.
Your thoughts on the Stop Police Brutality movement?
I think it is justifiable, and it's something that does need to gain more traction, in my opinion, because you do need what you call this. You do need procedures and a means in which you handle situations. Like Mulundu said, we have the Vespa situation where they did not make sure that people had left the rooms when they were there firing the tear gas. So if someone was sleeping and they got stuck and they got burnt in the process. Yeah, like they're supposed to be looking out for. They're supposed to be protecting and serving. A couple of weeks ago, I went to a police station, and one of the police officers told me that we're not the police force, we're the police service. That's something that I think more policemen need to have in mind.
Yeah.
That it's not them against everyone or against every citizen.
Like
But they're
should be
there
here
to
protect us.
Yes, they are there to protect us. They are there to ensure that there's law and order in this country. They are there to ensure that every citizen is being what you call this, taken care of by the law, and their rights are being respected as well. So you have this situation in which you have policemen who probably may not have gotten tertiary education or been educated to a certain level that they know that, look, I must respect the people that I'm dealing with. But they look at it as, I now have to, like, I'm now above the ordinary citizen, and
I have to control them.
I
keep
have to
them
control.
in
I
order.
can dictate what happens, which is a very bad situation.
There have been, just countless amounts of incidents where you hear that people were beaten during interrogations.
Yes.
And it's almost become like such a normal thing. It even leads you to think about the validity of certain confessions to crimes and things.
I hope this country doesn't spiral into a situation that Uganda is in.
Oh, do educate me on that. I don't know what situation they're in.
Okay. So the thing is, they're trying to get rid of a leader who's been there for a really long time.
Okay.
Yes. And, well, what's happening is a musician decided to stand for president. And he told everybody, vote for me and we're going to bring change to this country together.
Is that same musician that, people took up arms in because they felt so motivated and they got riled up and they started throwing rocks at certain establishments?
So things have been getting hairy in that country, quite violent, and like ultimately we don't want that situation to happen in this country as well, because if we can speak frankly and say that if the police were willing to use force, deadly force, on a member of the opposition, what could happen in the later days to come?
But when I watch the news, I see a lot of efficiency being televised. Like when murders happen, the police act swiftly, the suspect is in custody, and they confess. So I don't really understand why we haven't had the same efficiency like in this situation. They'll even tell you on the news, they tell you about the area, they give you the name of the person who did it, they tell you exactly what transpired. Yeah, they even show the person on TV, For example, in what's called Kanyombo district. Somebody killed 2 of their co-workers and cut them up and buried them somewhere. And the police tracked that person down really fast. Even got that person to go and take them to exactly where he buried the bodies. Surely, I mean, but they didn't find the bodies. But I'm just saying, it's an example of success.
In terms of what you call this ability to carry out their duties, they do have the ability. I'm sure that there are quite a number of police officers who are genuinely trained and do want to carry out their duties diligently. But then you also have those bad eggs. You have those people who are corrupt, those people who for one reason or another found themselves in the profession. So they don't really have that motivation, they don't really have that drive to actually see justice being actualized as such. So when you have people like that who aren't motivated, or who are motivated for the wrong reasons, or could care less about their job and their duty and their responsibilities, you have situations like this. You have situations where people just want to take out their frustration on
anybody,
people, on anyone,
just because they're police officers,
and maybe because those people even might be in a better situation than they are, so they try and take it out on them. So that's something that I think we do need to be mindful of, is that we definitely do have people in the police service who may not want to actually be policemen, but because of circumstances and situations,
how hard it is to find employment,
that they resorted to that, which is scary, because then we won't progress as a nation if you're not carrying out your duties diligently, if you're not carrying out such an important responsibility to the best of your ability and going above and beyond the line of duty.
I recall a time when I basically took someone to the police, and we had an appointment scheduled to meet there. I had arrived there early. I was told to wait outside by the benches, and I did that, and a police officer came from outside and started interrogating me basically about why I was there. And I had explained that I've been told to wait out here because I'm waiting for the person that I provided a summons to, so that we could discuss this situation. And the guy basically chased me. He told me, "You can't wait here. Go wait somewhere else." And you think, is that really the attitude that someone who is meant to serve the public should have?
Yeah, there's certain institutions or certain places where they're quite sensitive, and you don't want people loitering around, as it were. But then that's an opportunity that should have been an opportunity for that officer to sort you out, so that you can go and you can move on along your way the rest of your day. But for them, their interest was just get people out of here. Like, this is whether he wanted to knock off early, or he just didn't want to deal with whatever paperwork that you are going to, or that was going to be needed to sort out your situation. They just couldn't be bothered, and they just wanted you out of the way, which is quite sad. Yeah, like I've been saying, because then that whatever case that brought you there, whatever criminal case that brought you there, or there's a person who has gotten free, or just gotten off the hook because a policeman didn't want you to wait there and
outside the police office
and actually be attended to, And
so I guess moving on from what's going on with the police, there have been a string of murders happening. It's almost like a trend at this moment. There was the one I told you about with the guy killing his co-workers. What other murders were there?
There was also murder right here in Chilanga. Yes,
Okay.
yes. This was a murder-suicide. Yes, so very, very tragic. It looked like a marital dispute,
Okay.
husband and wife. For some reason or the other, they went at each other, and the husband did what he did and strung himself up afterwards. So that's one of the many that have happened. I also came across this other story. This man who was in a love triangle hacked his opposite number after he confiscated her phone on Christmas Eve.
So he saw evidence that she was with this other person. But
Could be that he placed a phone call to the other guy. And maybe said a couple of things.
so it was just building up basically from that point. Like, wait till I see this guy.
I think we will hear a lot more cases like that, and even worse cases like that. Now I'm saying this because of the current situation in the country. A lot of people aren't happy, and due to also the global circumstances of Corona, there's a lot of hardships that everyone has been hit with. So when you have a situation like that, it's basically a recipe for disaster. You have people who are frustrated, who feel betrayed, and like everything is just going against them. And sometimes they do take these things out on the people that are closest to them, the people that are around them, or whoever it is that they happen to come into contact with.
It doesn't seem like there are any immediate remedies.
Yes, there's no quick fix to what's going on right now, and it will take some time. But that's just something that we just have to be like wary of, given the times that we're going through right now. That we're not safe. We're not safe in the sense that you never know what may happen. You might cross paths with someone and they do take it out on you. So you really do just have to be on alert and try to de-escalate situations whenever you see a situation, an altercation happening, because you never know what may come out of that same situation.
I did hear during the whole COVID situation that cases of gender-based violence have risen. So I guess everybody's feeling that pressure, that heat,
Definitely.
Hopefully, the COVID situation will be sorted out.
Yeah, I think people have been strained because of all of this. Like Saidi said, these are hardships, So people are going through tough times, and that can take a toll on them. So for you to keep composed and keep calm, it's difficult. I mean, look at statistics in the UK, for instance. Right? They say that people have been taking antidepressants much more than they have in the past.
I mean, you gotta, because rent is due. Rent is due. It may not even be rent is due. Rent has been due for months. And the landlord himself is in a bad situation. Like, he needs to be making money from this, but you don't have any, but like according to the government, he can't throw you out. So it's a really tough situation.
But I think also the lockdown was hard on a lot of people, in the sense that certain people did have support systems, whether it was going out to the local bar, or going out to the club, or any sports area, you know. So there are lots of things that these social gatherings that were restricted. That's where most people would get the emotional support, and because of the lockdown, which was needed, it did have its effects on a lot of people's mental states, and it will probably continue to have a lot of strain on people. And that's what I was saying, that there's no quick fix to what's going on, but we're going to have to figure out ways on dealing with the effects of what we're dealing with right now. So whether it's you just getting in contact with that friend who's been quiet, or who's gone off the radar, we do need to step up as people. We do need to try and make every effort in trying to show people support and trying to help them through this tough time as it is.
Yeah, at the same time, it looks like the whole situation is gonna be extended because there's a new wave of cases, isn't there? I heard the COVID has mutated, and you're seeing a lot more cases of it now. There's been a rise in new cases, at least 600, and I think that's end counting, you know. So how can this situation end, basically?
First of all, a successful and safe vaccine is definitely needed, which would help the situation. Another thing is, it's
okay, the vaccine, right? Let's talk about the vaccine.
Yeah.
I have an issue with the vaccine because I don't want to sound like I'm vilifying our government too much, okay? But I'd just like to state that I am not sure if we as the people would be in the best position to receive a vaccine from the authorities, as it were, because, I mean, who are we going to get a vaccine from? Are we going to get a vaccine from the US, from the UK, from India? You know, what sort of decision making is going to go into all of that? You know, we as the people, we need to be heard, we need to be represented. Surely we should have a clear-cut procurement process that's going to tell us exactly how much is being spent, or if things are being donated to us. You know, we should be in the know at every step, because this is a vaccine that is going to be injected into the body. You know, there could be long-term repercussions involved. And already we know that some of the vaccines are modifying the mRNA, you know?
Yeah, I heard the reason why this one alters your DNA to some extent is because it's, you know how most vaccines are dormant? This one isn't. All it does is it alters your body's ability to, I guess, utilize protein so that your body is strong enough to fight off COVID when you do contract it.
You know? So I'll just put that out there. I'm a bit apprehensive about a vaccine, because if we're talking about changes being made to our bodies on a genetic level, you know,
you really gotta make sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, it's something that I was actually told by one of my cousins who's a medical practitioner, is that every drug you take has an effect. It does take a toll on your body. So you find that you're taking aspirin for whatever reason. Aspirin has an effect that it thins the blood. So if you get if you get injured, there is a high possibility that you might bleed out just from taking something that alleviates headaches and various other symptoms. So every vaccine, every medicine, every chemical medicine that we do take does have its toll, does take a toll on the body. There are effects that we're going to have to come to terms with as a result of taking the same vaccine, but it's an opportunity cost type of situation. You can either not take the vaccine and be susceptible to catching the virus, or you can take the vaccine and now you take away the possibility of ever catching the virus. But it's going to cost you something at the end of the day.
At the same time, there is it appears that there needs to be a huge level of trust involved. Like Malundu mentioned earlier, about us knowing what the government is doing, where it's getting it from. But there's also that level of trust from the continent itself. There has been a history of Africa getting vaccines from different countries, and then them turning out to be detrimental to people's health.
Purportedly the polio vaccine, which is what went on to bring AIDS.
The polio vaccine brought AIDS? Allegedly. Yeah, and then there's that vaccine that I don't know if it was in Kenya, the one which made those women sterile, yeah. So how does the continent begin to trust the source of the vaccine?
People can't be trusted. That's my opinion, to be honest. People can't be trusted. Give people what you call this, the leeway. They will act in their own interests. They will definitely act in their own interests. So that's something that I feel that we as Africans should be aware of, that at the end of the day, we can't expect people who don't live with us on a daily basis, people who aren't directly affected by what happens to us,
to be empathetic
and to look out for our best interest. This is a situation in which it should actually cause many more African countries and African people to just wake up and realize that, look, we can't rely on the West or anyone else to come up with solutions that will, one, look out for our best interest and have us in mind. We are the only ones who can look out for our best interest, because we're the people who are directly affected by some of these things. So yeah, this was an opportunity for the best universities in what you call this in Africa to come up with a solution here. You've got UCT, University of Cape Town. You've got Wits University. You've got so many big universities on this continent who could have come up with their own vaccine, who could have come up with their own solution to a problem that is affecting African people. Yeah, so that's something that I feel that we could try and focus our energies on, in trying to come up with solutions and not look towards the Russians or the Americans or the British to come up with solutions for us.
But at the end of the day, you pay for the lack of long-term planning, because what you're talking about, us being self-reliant, It's something that should have started a long time ago in small doses.
Yeah.
So we'd be at a point when, if something does happen, we'd be well prepared for it. But now we're just, we're paying for that lack of foresight, you know.
Yeah, but this is another opportunity for us to also just say that, okay, look, we should never be in this situation again going forward. Because there was the bird flu that came, is it H1N1, at some point, and it seemed like it was going to take out the whole world. But fortunately enough, it didn't get to these parts. But that should have been an eye-opening moment for us that, hey, look, if something were to occur, we are what you call this? We are at risk because we don't have any proper measures in place. But yeah, that's something that I think now we should wisen up on and try and come up with solutions for, so that we're not in the same situation going forward.
I hope the conspiracy theorists aren't right on this one. That Africa is there for the taking. And current events are orchestrated towards doing just that.
Well, not without a fight.
Look, you don't even need to go as far as conspiracy theories, but this has been a situation from colonialization. Mm-hmm. You know, I was thinking about what France, or the part that France, Belgium, and even England played in subjugating a whole continent, a continent that had a lot of hope, but because we were taken advantage of, when we're reaping some of the effects of what people had done, in the sense that you have the Public Order Act, in which it was put in place to keep Africans at a disadvantage. It's still being used today. This is something that we should have seen that, okay, look, this was working against us. Let's repeal this so that no one can use this against us again. But it's still there. It's still there in enactment right now as we speak.
I feel that it bears mentioning that countries colonized by France are still paying them for property that's still in their country. You know, they came, they colonized the place, they have land there. So since our land is there, you still have to pay us for anything that, you know, you build on it. So they still pay France for that. Had to say.
You know,
I was reading on the Anglo-Zulu War yesterday. So you had the Zulu kingdom and you had the Boers who were part of the region, and from pretty much nowhere, the British show up and they start giving ultimatums, you know, and the indigenous people are like, no, of course we can't concede to what you're saying. So they fought back, and you know, long story short, you know, South Africa became a colony of Britain. So I mean, if you think about all of this in terms of world domination, you know, and keeping or changing the status quo, you know, then maybe you would come to the conclusion that a pandemic would be such an effective way to do it. Because I read an article that said in 2028, China is going to eclipse the US and become the world's #1 economy. You know?
#1 superpower.
Exactly.
But at the same time, where there is a problem, there's also an opportunity for everybody to do better than they were doing. to put more effort into striving towards better conditions so that people can live as peacefully as possible. And we're talking about that. Let's move on to the ministers repaying. There was, what year was that? It was during the 2016 elections, right? Where the government usually closes down during campaign time, or what time is that?
Before there is a transfer of government.
Yeah, but it did not happen. So ministers were still getting paid, people were still in office, and now it's been ruled that ministers have to pay that money back. And there's been difficulty paying it back, hasn't there?
There has been. As this stands today, they have 3 more days to pay back that money. But what's been happening is well-wishers have been showing up and paying off some, if not all, of ministers' salaries.
But how do well-wishers come and pay that back? I mean, surely it's been, how many years? It's been, okay, by the time you'll be hearing this, it's been pretty much 5 years since that happened. And you've been receiving 5 years worth of salaries.
No, it was for a period of about 3 months.
3 months, yeah.
No, I'm talking about after that. The ruling party has stayed in power. So those ministers continue.
Okay, I see what you mean. So, like, what's the point of having well-wishers when the ministers themselves can pay off the money easy?
Is all the money just being spent every time they receive it? Or
well,
how are they struggling? It was 3 months worth of pay, right?
I don't think there's a situation of them struggling to pay that amount. It's just there's no willingness to do it. I heard something which I can't verify, but I heard that there was someone who had actually mentioned that the citizens of Lusaka were going to pay for them. You know, how do you have the audacity to say that, given the situation that we're in right now, to say that, look, I'm not going to pay it, other people paid for me, which is what's happening right now.
Aren't the people in a way paying for it already, because those salaries come from taxes. Those salaries, come from the people.
Look, it's the principle at the end of the day. You don't want a situation in which yes, the courts of law order people to pay, especially ministers to pay, and nothing happens to that. You want a situation in which they actually remove the money. Where they remove the money from, it shouldn't be an issue. As long as they pay from their pockets, that's sending a message. That's showing that the system is working, and that the law will visit you if you are found to be wanting. But you have a situation in which people, these same well-wishers, for whatever reason they're doing it, they are not sending a good message to the ministers themselves. They're just showing the ministers that, look, you can do whatever it is that you want. We'll take care of you at the end of the day. Which shouldn't be the case. The case should be the ministers are there saying, okay, you know what, we were wrong for getting this money. You know what, we'll pay this money back. Yeah, and like you said, they are getting their salaries. They have been getting their salaries from that point up to now. And it's taxpayers' money. But it should register in their head that, look, if I do something wrong, the law will visit me at the end of the day. I'll still be accountable for what I have done, which we are sort of like taking away when we are now fencing up this money at the end of
helping
the
day.
Helping to pay at the end of the day. It's quite funny how people are so narrow-minded and short-sighted in the sense that they forget that they will never be in power forever. There will come a day when government is going to change. It may not be this year, it may not be the next 4 years or
5 years.
5 years from now, but at some point they will have to
Answer for
everything that they've done. My only hope is that they face the consequences of their actions before they do die, and it's not one of those judgment day situations in which that's when they get to pay for everything that they've done. But we actually get the courts, the justice system to visit them, and they actually pay for their actions.
How long ago was it ruled that they should pay the money back?
It was ruled back in, I think, during the same 3 months.
So
when there was supposed to be that transition of government. From that time up to now, this is when they want to now get the money.
This is being enforced from that time.
This is being enforced from that time.
I was gonna provide an argument saying that, they have, from the time it was ruled that they should pay back, they've even been getting salaries from that time. So it's still pretty much the same amount. I'm not sure how many ministers have paid back the money, but I only know of one who paid it back in full, right?
And who's that?
You showed me a receipt.
Oh, that is the former finance minister, not finance, pardon me, the former Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Yeah, and he hasn't been in the job for a long time, and he paid it all back in full. So how is it that people who are still getting money can't pay it back? Okay, yeah, like you said, it's a reluctance to pay it back. Yeah.
I mean, it's, what is it, like 60, 70,000 kwacha, on average. So it's a hit, either way that you look at it, Yeah, it will sting.
It's a hit if you haven't been properly managing your finances for 5 years.
Okay.
Anyway, let me not even begin to question it anymore. There has been quite a number of drownings recently. You hear of areas flooding, people being caught up in that and basically perishing for that. Is that a lack of, once again, foresight and planning, or improvements which are supposed to be made but haven't been? Because I heard the story of a woman in Kanyama. She was walking and she fell in an open septic tank, and she was carried away by the current, basically, and she drowned because of that.
I think there's a recurring theme to most of the topics we've been discussing. Is that
didn't want to say it.
Is that, look, we are paying for the actions that won't they weren't put in motion recently. But this is a problem that has been compounding for a very long time. So you have these settlements that what's the word that I'm looking for? These settlements, like these informal settlements, you have these high density areas in which the planning hasn't been done properly. You have You have areas like, yes, so you have like water and storage lines that weren't necessarily designed properly.
Or covered up even.
Covered up as well. And that's because that's as a result of the ineffectiveness of the town and country planners, the councils, the local councils, the local authorities being disadvantaged to a certain extent, in the sense that they're not given enough funds and enough support to carry out their duties well. So like okay, in an area like Chilanga right now, when the council gives out plots here, they should be serviced. They should have water and storage already sorted out. But we don't have that. In fact, all the neighborhoods in Chilanga, they're being serviced by boreholes, their own initiatives. They're having to put their own septic tanks. And when some of these systems do fail, it shouldn't come to us as a surprise, really, because these are individuals who are taking up these tasks that the local authorities should be taking up. So when you hear of floodings in areas, you're not paying enough levies to the councils. The councils aren't they're not adequately funded. So certain things that shouldn't come as a luxury, or certain things that should be given, especially when you give out pieces of land to people.
That reminds me of
being taken care of.
That reminds me of when people from the council came to my house. They were bringing a service to the area where they come and they pick up your garbage, basically. And I thought, okay, that's nice. But then they wanted me to pay for the service every month. And I thought, what? No, I'm good, because you guys should have this kind of thing worked out in a budget. You shouldn't need any more than my taxes have already provided. You know.
The unfortunate thing is, it's prescribed at law. That's how councils raise revenue, through taxes and rates.
Yes,
levies.
Tax fees, fines, levies.
So that's something that they're supposed to actually. So like even what you call this, the bus stops. The bus stations are supposed to be managed by the council. But then you have a situation in which you see a flag for a certain party, and you have those supporters or cadres who are sort of managing those same bus stops. And that's money that's not going to the council. That's money that's not going back to help the situation, and that's how they are not getting enough funding. Right now, councils get grants from the government. So, because they're not making money. The way that they make money is just like you mentioned, through offering services. So yes, they are supposed to get money from you when they take your trash away. Because how do you expect them to offer that service if they're not getting any money to sort of fund that? It's a situation in which, fine, look, I do understand where people would have hesitations to paying money to the councils. It's because you know that, okay, look, fine, I can give them money for this, but then you even know that it's still not going to be enough to
have it done like as they have offered
prescribed
it
and all.
Like we'll be coming here every week, you know. But that offer. It was even months ago, like quite a number of months ago.
If I'm not mistaken, it happened in November.
And has anybody even come? So.
Yeah,
it's
so
there's a lot lacking motivation. Or
there's a lot of mismanagement. There's a lot of mismanagement that's contributing to some of this as well, if you think about it. And yeah, like I've been saying,
Yeah.
we're just seeing symptoms of a greater problem that's there.
Yeah.
And
That's
we'll
what-
continue to feel the effects of it unless drastic changes are made.
That's a way of putting it. Okay, let's end today's discussion on one last topic. Malundu, tell us the story of the man who fell at Victoria Falls.
Okay, so a Zimbabwean man was reportedly taking a selfie at the Victoria Falls when he slipped and fell, went down into the gorge. What is it called? That, he plunged, and they sent out a rescue team, and well, so far nothing has turned up, but yes, that happened. I guess this reminds me of a story I heard just recently of an Australian woman who also plunged to her death while taking a selfie.
Where was she?
Where was she again? I forget. But anyway, I think the takeaway is that there's a trend of taking dangerous selfies.
But at the same time, okay, the last time I went to Victoria Falls, I could see, sure, there are many areas, let's say even a majority of the place, there are barriers put in place, but there are also a good number of places where all there is just the end of a cliff, basically. And I always felt like they need to put up barriers around those places as well. I don't know if they want to add to the experience.
Excuse me.
Be able to look down at the cliff without any impediment or whatever. So it's a thing. Hopefully the people in Livingston do take action now that this has happened.
Look, there are risks to everything that we do. Okay, I haven't been to Livingston in a while. I think it's been like a couple of years, but from the time that I went there, there are normally signs that say do not stand at the edge. Do not stand at the edge, especially during the same time when there's a lot of water in the Victoria Falls or on the Zambezi. Like you said, there are edges, there's water there, so you can slip up. So again, it's up to you as a person to also just have like a bit of caution as you do some of these things. Because honestly, like the areas in which there's a lot of danger, there are barriers there. But then you have people who want to get as close as possible to the edge, or as close as possible to get the most dramatic shot. And when something like this happens, it shouldn't really come as a surprise, really. Because look, you don't even have a harness. There's nothing that's tethering you to the edge of the cliff, as it were. So when you take such risks and something bad happens, it shouldn't come to us as a surprise, you have those cases where you'd hear that someone fell into the lion's den or something like that.
Oh, zoos. People fall into a lot of animal
But
pits.
what are you doing? What are you doing close to the edge? Close to the edge of something that is containing or
preventing you from being in contact with something
with a dangerous animal.
Yeah.
And then when that animal comes and it maws you, the animal is at fault. Really, come on. It can't. It's doing what it does best. It's being wild. It's being instinctive in attacking. whatever prey comes near it. So that's the same thing with nature. You can't dare nature and think that you're going to come out the winner between you and nature, you know. So it's sad, yes, it's sad that a life was lost, but really when you think about the situation that this life was lost, taking a selfie, was it really that necessary? Was that selfie worth the risk at the end of the day?
Clearly not.
You know, you really do just have yourself to blame for some of these situations. I'm going to be cold, and it might seem harsh and what have you, but at the end of the day, we just need to call it as it is. It was stupidity that caused this, you know. It was stupidity, and it was carelessness on his part. You know, you find that it's just that we don't have the person's body, but you might actually find out that the person was actually drinking.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to bring up, right? Because last time I checked, there was a restaurant that sells alcohol there, and is that really wise to have at a place where people can have some serious accidents?
Look, if you're going to be buying yourself a beer, I think you can make decisions for yourself, and you can't really start blaming the restaurant or the bar for someone's carelessness, you know, at the end of the day.
For giving you what you think you could handle in that environment.
You made the decision to go to that establishment. You removed the money, knowing the dangers that are there of when you do take any substance that inebriates you. That there are risks to it.
Everybody just thinks it's not their day to die, eh?
And when it's your day, really,
it's your day.
It's
bro.
your day. It's your day.
Anyway. All right, we've run out of time. That has been our Zambian discussion, our interview with local Chilanga resident Saidi. I have been your host, Mr. Pars, or you can call me Sunday.
Malundu, the Kingpin.
And I am very much looking forward to our next episode. Thank you very much for coming, man.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure.
You're welcome back anytime. It's good to keep a conversation going.
Yeah.
All right, catch you guys on the next one.
Chilanga Conversing.